On 10 August 2022, LowTierGod, better known as the Lawn Sparrow, even better known as Dale Emmanuel Wilson, silently added 5 news articles about himself to his LinkTree page. Many Covenant fans and detractors alike are wondering how exactly 5 articles about him appeared at the same time, with some naturally speculating he fostered their creation to sate his ego. Although I'm no fan of Mr. Wilson, I prefer to be as objective as possible, so I'd like to read and review each with you before making such a determination. Specifically, I'm going to evaluate each essay by tallying the following. Grammatical errors, both minor and major. In my personal stance, both are unforgivable for professional writing and these should be one category, but if CNN is any indication, then you can comma splice your way to the top. So to cater to the journalistic crowd, it's important to distinguish errors a child would make from errors a high schooler would make. Stylistic follies, basically what I would term poor writing. Think of excessively repetitive or poorly worded sentences. This is a type of amateurish tripe that should be beneath a professional journalist. Objectively false statements, a category that speaks for itself because they indicate a failure in research, an important tenet of journalism. Dale-isms. This is my favorite category. These tend to be malapropisms. For example, Dale often likes to deride stereotypical names of African American people as slanderish names, when the word he truly means to use is outlandish, not slanderish. These can also take the form of neologisms, misspellings, and linguistic idiosyncrasies that are unique to him. Point is, these are strong tells that Mr. Wilson himself heavily influenced the written word. And last but not least, administrative red flags. Things like fake contact information or website issues that are extremely atypical for a professional site. So without further ado, let's start with article number 1. And we're already off to a terrible start. This isn't the client-side browser issue. This chill-out radio site failed their basic HTML and made this massive image of Dale scale to the size of your window. Not a problem on a small screen like a phone, but on a 2560 by 1440 monitor like mine, you're basically treated to a jump scare the moment you click it. That's an admin red flag if ever there were one. At least the article's title is professional though. So let's scroll past this mess and get into reading. With over 100,000 subscribers as of 2022, LowTierGod has become a well-loved YouTube channel. Alright, let's be generous. He's not well-loved, but a genuine journalist would make that inference based on subscriber count alone. The man behind it is the Lawn Sparrow, a Californian gaming enthusiast with a passion for authenticity in entertainment. That's our first Daleism for sure. Mr. Wilson has something of a love for the word authentic, and he really loves to misuse it. Whereas most people know authentic means true, as in not a literal forgery, Mr. Wilson likens the word as true to the soul. This line makes no sense prima facie. Although his journey has been long and challenging at times, Sparrow has finally reached a point where he is confident in who he is and where he can explore his creativity through a range of different passions. Alright, well, the sentence is poorly worded and unctuous, which you might call a tell, but let's be generous and assume the writer just really likes him. The story of the Lawn Sparrow's success begins more than 10 years ago back in 2011. It's repetitive to say both 10 years ago and back in 2011 in the same sentence. Stylistic folly. Still a young man trying to figure out his life path, Sparrow turned to YouTube for comfort. I'll ignore the obvious age joke. Life path is a phrase that he loves, but it's common enough, so let's give it to him. He would spend each day watching many videos and was deeply inspired by the authenticity of creators on the platform. There's that misused authenticity again. It's another Daleism, obviously. He soon decided to try creating videos of his own. He combined his passion for gaming with his passion for entertainment, and his gaming channel LowTierGod was born. This is a run-on sentence, this last one here. You need a comma before the and. Minor grammatical error. LowTierGod started as a channel for Street Fighter and other fighting game videos. I know this is subjective, but this sentence is stylistically poor in my opinion. It's not clear that both Street Fighter and other fighting game are elliptically adjectives to videos. One way you could fix it is by making other fighting games parenthetical. But let's move on. While this attracted an initial audience, the Lawn Sparrow soon decided to branch out a bit in order to attract a wider demographic. Very clunky writing. Out a bit in order to attract? How about just branch out to attract? 4 words that can be removed right there. Remember, less is more in writing. He soon began posting videos playing other genres of games. That's grammatically incorrect. It's Dale playing other genres, not videos playing other genres. This then developed into posting reaction videos to trending topics or activities. Through the growth of his channel, the Lawn Sparrow had found a way to fully express himself and explore his individuality. I need to object to 2 errata in this paragraph. 1, the tense is all over the place. There's no reason that this sentence should be in the past perfect given what precedes it. And 2, I'm sure you've noticed it by now, but for whatever reason, the author keeps spelling out the Lawn Sparrow, the full name. Typically, after you use a full name the first time, you should only use the last name to refer to the subject. But in this paper, apparently 8 times. And it's only a 20-line article. That's incredible. The Lawn Sparrow's business endeavors did not stop with his YouTube channel, however. Well, in relation to this essay, the channel was never described as a business endeavor before this, only a passionate authenticity and individuality. This calls back to that which wasn't uttered. Let's call it stylistic folly. Determined to explore all of his passions and to inspire others to do the same, Sparrow also opened his very own clothing brand, The Covenant. Alright, misrepresenting The Covenant, which was first a term he coined to refer to his YouTube membership gaggle of confused boys as a clothing brand, is a falsehood, but it's one he's going to repeat a lot in these articles. I have to increase the objective falsehood counter by 1. And last and least, brand names don't go in quotes, so minor error count increments. The brand started off selling gaming-related merchandise, but has since branched into a more general fashion brand. Using brand twice in the same sentence like that, that's high school level writing. It's below what I expect of a journalist. DeLon Sparrow's unique influence is still evident in the designs, however. He has always been interested in fashion and uses his brand to further connect his community and help them feel encouraged to express themselves as he has been able to. Man, just look at how repetitive these last 2 sentences are in the scope of this paragraph. It has to remind you for the 20th time of his unique influence. Not to mention how badly this last sentence is written. Stylistic folly counter increased by 1, and that's very generous. Although he never reveals exactly what he has coming next, DeLon Sparrow is sure to always have something new and exciting on the horizon. That's clunky, repetitive, and unprofessional, but I'll be generous and not increment it. His fan base continues to grow in size with each new avenue that he explores. Okay. Each and every day he blossoms into someone who is more and more confident in their individuality. So 3 things. 1, every day should be 2 words. If it's 1 word, it just means ordinary. 2, more and more. That's very conversational. That's not how you should write in journalism. And 3, at this point, the word individuality has become too overused to forgive. It's definitely a Daleism, so incrementing minor error and Daleism count by 1. His journey has inspired many others to also find security in their personality, and this has become his fundamental goal with every endeavor that he embarks on. So 3 things. 1, this is a run-on sentence, there needs to be a comma before and. 2, endeavor uses the British spelling, which is pretty odd considering this is ostensibly an American website, it's a .com domain. And 3, the sentence was already iterated 20 times the last paragraph, so why is a sentence here? LowTierGod is sure to become one of the top channels on YouTube thanks to the engaging and diverse content that DeLon Sparrow continues to produce. Unprofessional, clunky writing again, but let's be generous and not increment anything. We need to hit some other red flags before moving on to the next article. Specifically, no author is given, no date is given. And moreover, according to the site's About page, they invite guest bloggers. So at least those omissions are a little more honest, I suppose. I could nitpick further, but I need to rest my stomach before the next article. This next one is by Business News Ledger. But before that, let's point out that Dale for some reason links the accelerated mobile page version of the article, which very strangely doesn't show the article's date and author. Delete AMP at the end of the URL and you can see it's written by Trayvon Marner on July 18, 2022. Clicking his name, which is supposed to yield a list of authors' works, loops you back to the homepage. In other words, it's a hyperlink just for show. That's a red flag. According to Google, White Pages, LinkedIn, and various other sites, Trayvon Marner doesn't exist, which is another red flag because he's supposedly a seasoned journalist with 12 years under his belt. Note this bio wasn't brave enough to say what college this non-existent journalist studied at, just Boston, home of many big boy universities like Boston College, Boston University, Harvard, etc. And to just wrap up all red flags now, their contact form's first option is a sponsored article. Now that's journalism. Alright, enough tarrying, let's dive right in. Many may know LowTierGod for his highly popular YouTube gaming content. Many may know his pretty weak writing, but let's be generous and not increment anything. He continues to demonstrate his variety of interests and passions, however, with the launch of his clothing brand, The Covenant. Right, there he goes misrepresenting the origin of the Covenant term again. I'll only increment the like counter once per article on it from here on out, and moreover inappropriately, it's once again in quotes. This brand has become highly popular within his community of fans and beyond thanks to the fashionable designs. Within his community of fans and beyond, you could have omitted that altogether. Moreover, we do have to acknowledge that fashionable designs is a Daleism after the first article. It's a meaningless phrase that's coming up far too often to call a mere coincidence. This is just one of the many endeavors that LowTierGod, otherwise known as DeLon Sparrow, has pursued in his career. He continues to create a variety of innovative ways to engage an audience and show off his unique personality as an entertainer. Excessively unctuous and poorly written sentence at the end there, but I'm not going to increase the stylistic folly counter. For DeLon Sparrow, YouTube came into his life in a major way in 2011. Very poor writing, I have to increment the counter. At this point, he knew that he had a passion for entertainment, but was a relatively shy person when it came to social situations. This is a comma splice. This comma shouldn't be here. In the comfort of his home, however, he loved just being himself and discovering his preferred forms of self-expression. Alright, I'm sure you picked up on the proclivity for putting however between 2 commas by now, but that's fine. What does have to be acknowledged as a Daleism, though, is just being himself. Being oneself is obviously a very common phrase today, but the preference to place the unnecessary adverb just before it, shoddy in writing, is definitely a Daleism. Pay attention to his streams and you'll notice it there too. He became very drawn to the YouTube community, watching many videos surrounding his interests. Eventually, he began to take his love of Street Fighter and other fighting games to the internet, starting his own gaming channel, LowTierGod. Alright, well, internet is supposed to be capitalized, but just to spite null, I won't count it. What initially started as a gaming channel has since blossomed into a diverse place for Sparrow to let his true personality shine. See, why use the word initially here when you're already using the word started? It's so redundant, it just screams high school writing. After producing predominantly fighting game content, Sparrow decided to branch out into other gaming genres. Predominantly should be before producing. To his delight, this only encouraged a large demographic of viewers to subscribe to his channel. Unnecessarily flowery, I'd recommend deleting "to his delight" and "only." He again expanded his channel into a reaction channel where he reacts and shares his thoughts on any topic or trend. You should delete reacts and come on with this redundancy, man. This variety of content has earned him over 100,000 loyal subscribers, a number which continues to grow each day. Poor and conversational, I will point out that each day is a definite Daleism, so we'll increment that counter. Beyond his YouTube content, the Lawn Sparrow has also launched his very own clothing brand, The Covenant. Alright, it's like the article forgot its own second sentence, but more than that, The Covenant isn't quotes again. It shouldn't be. Let's increment the minor error. Originally, the brand started as a way to promote his gaming content, but has since expanded into a highly fashionable store. You don't need a comma for an introductory phrase, fewer than 4 words, but that's fine. It's this comma right here that's inarguably incorrect. It turns a sentence into a comma splice. On top of a passion for entertainment, Sparrow has also always had a passion for fashion. Why use the word also after you go through all the trouble to write on top of a passion for entertainment? That's stylistic folly at best. He hopes that people can find a sense of community through his clothing and that it gives them the confidence to follow their passions and discover their purpose as he did. Purpose should definitely be plural, you're talking about multiple people there. The Lawn Sparrow story is a truly inspiring one that continues to encourage other young people to follow their dreams. Again, we're only doing it once per article, but the Lawn Sparrow being used instead of just Sparrow is very odd. With plenty more on the horizon for this rising young star, his channel is a highly entertaining one to subscribe to. Constantly expanding and exploring new elements of himself, his dedication to creating a fun and supportive community is what has made him one of the most popular channels on YouTube. So these last 2 sentences came close to having their introductory phrases be dangling modifiers, but were barely saved by specifying their nouns. Still poor journalistic writing in my opinion. I'm tempted to call this last clause, one of the most popular channels on YouTube, a lie. There are 300,000 channels with more subscribers than him. But at the same time, 120k subs puts you at the 98th percentile, which isn't saying much because I have 6k subs and that puts me at the 90th percentile. So am I one of the most popular too? It's a subjective call, so let's be generous, call it true, and move on to the next bad article. This next one is by sunrisenews.co. Let's get some red flags out of the way again. This is by Jane Michaels, a very common name. Click it, and yet again, a redirect to the website's main page. Scroll down to the author information. Jane has been contributing to multiple news websites since 2005. Okay, which ones? Her passion towards journalism and sharing relevant information with global readers pushed her to take journalism major at Chicago University. Holy hell. Take journalism major at Chicago University? Okay, first off, Chicago University does not exist. No one calls UC Chicago University. Second, take journalism major? That's like ESL stuff right there. Goodness gracious. She is now a full-time journalist at Sunrise News. I hope not. The other thing is this photo looks suspiciously generic. Open this image in a new tab. Oh. Beautiful.jpg. Not Jane Michaels.jpg, but beautiful.jpg. So either Jane Michaels uploaded this while she was feeling pretty high on herself, or this is stolen from some poor IG model who's being used as a toilet by rich Saudis as I speak. The site's contact and about pages are the least suspicious yet, so at least that's not too bad, but geez, Jane Michaels. Moving on to the actual article, the title is fine and the image is actually appropriately sized, so not bad. If you are a fan of gaming content on YouTube, then chances are you have come across popular internet personality The Lawn Sparrow's content before. More commonly known as LowTierGod, Sparrow has built a community of fans through his highly engaging videos. Originally gaining popularity for his Street Fighter videos, which is where he got his name LowTierGod, he has since branched out and offers a range of content to his dedicated fans. The last sentence is pretty repetitive, but thus far, the IG model is actually the best author. Although The Lawn Sparrow has described himself as fairly introverted in public, particularly when he was younger, he has always had a passion for finding his true self and allowing it to shine to the world. I do have to increase the Daleism counter by 1. In these last few sentences, we have the fans being repeatedly described as dedicated, the videos repeatedly being described as highly engaging, and now using the phrase true self back to back to back. Obsequious as it all is, I could permit 1, but that's 3 phrases in a row he adores using. It's too much of a coincidence. In 2011, he began to watch a lot of YouTube, and he quickly discovered that this was the place where he could let his guard down and be his true self. Alright, now the writing's deteriorating. You just used true self last sentence, and you need a comma right here in its present form. It's a run-on. He found that it was a perfect environment for a young man to discover himself and to freely express his personality. He began making videos of himself playing Street Fighter and took on the name LowTierGod as a tribute to the game. Both of these sentences repeat things that have already been said. stylistic folly. I'm tempted to call the name LowTierGod being a tribute to the game a lie, because nothing like the phrase is in the series proper, but let's be nice. After playing predominantly only fighting games on his channel, DeLonSparrow decided the time had come to branch out and to try to attract a larger audience. Predominantly and only contradict each other. Pick one or the other. I wouldn't have made that error as a kid, so I'm calling it major. Plus the full name is being used here where only the last name should be, and the sentence is very clunky. This article went downhill fast. He started to try other genres of games, and also, having become more comfortable being himself, began posting reaction videos to all sorts of topics and viral trends. This participial phrase shouldn't be introduced with also. I'll call it a minor error just to be nice. His channel soon became an entertaining place with plenty of options for everyone to enjoy. Alright, sure. With his success only continuing to grow, DeLonSparrow decided to expand into another passion of his, fashion. Two things. Instead of only continuing to grow, write growing. Stylistic folly, in my opinion. Two, this comma should be replaced with a colon. He created his very own clothing brand, The Covenant, which was initially a place for him to sell gaming-related clothing. Three things, obviously once per article, calling The Covenant an initial clothing brand is going to be counted as a lie. Two, I'm glad this time they didn't put The Covenant in quotes, but there needs to be commas before and after The Covenant because it's a non-essential appositive. Three, gaming-related comes before the noun it modifies, so this should be hyphenated. Overall, that's 2 errors and 1 lie. He soon saw the further potential for the brand and expanded into stylish clothing for anyone, while still ensuring that his clothing expressed his passions. The sentence is quite bad, but what sticks out right away is that no comma should be before while. You only put a comma before while if you're using it to mean whereas, not at the same time. Call it a minor error. The brand has become highly popular and continues to provide a sense of community to Sparrow's fan. Again, the overuse of continue. Across all essays, the word is used a lot, and Dale does use it a lot in everyday conversation. Earlier, I'd call it a stylistic folly, but I can't ignore a trend. We have to increase the Daleism count. He hopes that his clothing brand reflects his mission to help others realize their own uniqueness and gain confidence in their personalities. That's a lie, but let's just pretend it isn't. Above all, DeLonSparrow hopes to inspire others to find the confidence in themselves that he did. The YouTube community is highly supportive of him, and his 100,000 plus followers only continue to grow in number each and every day. So this is a really bad sentence. This is a run-on, there needs to be a comma right here. Again, each and every day is a definite Daleism, as is the overuse of the word continue. So let's just increment both minor error and Daleism by 1. He continues to produce engaging content of all different genres regularly and promises that there is plenty more on the horizon from him. This is another really bad sentence. I have to at least increase stylistic folly. You don't need all. Regularly is a likely Daleism, and plenty more on the horizon is just unprofessional, but we're almost done. Whether it is clothing, gaming, or another endeavor, this entertainer is sure to have an expansive career. Alright, good for you. Moving on to article number 4, the marketing folks, huh? Well, let's address the very name of the website, the About Us page, and the Contact Us page, all directly referencing writing your own articles for search engine optimization as 3 red flags. I'm sorry, it's only fair. Tina Johnson's another generic name. Click that hyperlink and you guessed it, right to the homepage. These sites really can't be bothered to fake authored works pages. We also have a unique red flag here, the comments off. This site has no comments anywhere, so that's misleading the reader into thinking it ever does. Scroll down to more about the author. Tina Johnson helped bring the marketing folks from a weekly newsletter to a full-fledged news site by creating a new website and branding. So you created a news site by creating a new website. Interesting. How do you create branding, by the way? And why is a weekly hyphenated? That sentence alone is a red flag. She continues to assist in keeping the site responsive and well-organized for the readers. As a contributor to the marketing folks, Tara mainly covers industry new? So her name changed in her own bio and you misspelled the word news? Alright, I'm calling that 3 red flags just for posterity. California resident DeLonSparrow has successfully built a career around his love of entertaining. It's still weird to me personally that we're calling sitting in an apartment at the age of 40 and calling children gay for beating you at video games a career. To me, I think of that as a hobby, like jazzercise, but okay, let's give it to him. Online, he is known as LowTierGod. It always hyperlinks to the Instagram. An engaging content creator specializing in YouTube gaming videos. But that is not all that he does. So far, Sparrow has enjoyed an expansive career and continues to branch into new avenues and explore every area of his passion for entertaining and community. And this is where the writing starts to fall apart. Very poorly written, unnecessarily verbose sentence, and I doubt you meant to say you had a passion for community there. But let's just increase stylistic folly by 1 to be nice. His channel has grown into one with over 100,000 subscribers, and his other business endeavors such as his clothing brand The Covenant continue to enjoy similar levels of success. This might be the worst written article yet. Grown into one is unnecessarily clunky writing, stylistic folly. folly. There needs to be a comma before this and. It's a run-on right now. Minor error. This comma introduces a non-restrictive clause in the sentence and is actually correct, but it forgets the comma that's supposed to come after the covenant. Minor error. You already know the covenant shouldn't be in quotes. Another minor error. You know what? Actually, to error this hard in a 29-word sentence is a major error in and of itself, so let's decrement those counts and just increment that. In 2011, the Lawn Sparrow was an introverted young man trying to find ways for himself to express his true personality. Okay, at least he said true personality instead of true self, so no Daleism there in my opinion. It was at this time that he became drawn to the YouTube community. After watching countless videos each day, he soon decided to create his own channel. Literally countless, literally every day? Poor writing, but let's just observe the tick each day is a Daleism. Initially, he started off playing Street Fighter and other fighting games. Again, initially is completely unnecessary here. This is where he got his name, LowTierGod. LowTierGod shouldn't be in quotes. After developing a following, he then decided to branch into other genres of games in order to attract an even wider demographic. Bad, but let's stomach it. Soon there were thousands of people enjoying the Lawn Sparrow's content. He consistently uploaded gaming content and other content that interested him, such as reaction videos to viral trends. You know, one rule of thumb I recommend is that if you change from subjects in sentences, the succeeding sentence should use a proper noun, not a pronoun. The subject changed from thousands of people to sparrow in this sentence, but instead of using sparrow, he just used he. Call it subjective, I mostly let it slide, but this is stylistic folly in my opinion. He had finally found a place where he could let his true personality shine. It's twice you used true personality, and similarly, there's no reason to change to the past perfect tense here. It's just increased stylistic folly by 1. In addition to this, he had a community of fans who were inspired by his journey. You know, previously the article said his goal was to inspire fans. Now it's that he already has inspired fans. That just isn't true by his own admission, so objective falsehood increased by 1. Hoping to further inspire his fans to follow in his footsteps and discover their individuality, the Lawn Sparrow has taken on more projects. Let's get our once per article minor error of using the full name for no reason out of the way. His clothing brand, The Covenant, is a particularly notable one. You already know by now that the covenant shouldn't be in quotes. But this phrase here is also funny. A particularly notable one, that's what we like to call weasel words, folks. What does that mean? The brand stemmed from Sparrow's love of fashion and was initially a place where his fans could buy gaming-related merchandise so that they could feel like a part of his gaming community. Gaming related should be hyphenated. Eventually, the brand developed further into a sophisticated fashion brand suitable for anyone. Look, I try to be generous, but at some point you have to give. I don't think you can call a line of hoodies and gaming jerseys sophisticated. The creative yet wearable pieces are ideal for day to say where. Day to say where? Are you kidding me? You mean to tell me they couldn't spell a 3-letter word right in a news article? Good lord. They are highly fashionable while still showing hints of Sparrow's unique personality and vision. This sentence is meaningless and also contradicts the previous articles wherein Sparrow's uniqueness was the focal point of the brand, not mere hints of it. Stylistic folly. Although the Lawn Sparrow never reveals exactly what his next move is in his career, he always promises to do something new and exciting. Terrible writing, but I'm too tired to repeat myself. Keeping fans on their toes is what he does best, and the community knows that no matter what it is he decides to do, he will never disappoint. So you can cut out "it is" and save yourself a few words right off the bat. But moreover, the sentence is a run-on because it needs a comma before this and. I also have to increase the objective falsehood counter again because he has disappointed before. Just ask Shaq. Blanket statements are dangerous. His career so far has allowed him to explore opportunities in a range of different avenues. You already said this, folly. He continues to find new ways to express himself and connect with his community. You already said this, folly. The Lawn Sparrow is an internet sensation who should not be overlooked if you like authentic and exciting content. And this article wouldn't be complete if it weren't for that authentic malapropism. Truly the cherry on top of this shit sundae. Thank God this one is over. And the last article is by the Daily Scanner and will, I hope, be our easiest because uniquely it's in interview form. This time there's no fake hyperlink in the author's name. There's also no fake university in his bio, which is an improvement. His bio calls himself an entrepreneurial and celebrity columnist twice, but I'll forgive that. There is at least one red flag in it though. It claims Mr. Harper wrote for The Sun, but absolutely nothing on The Sun bears his name. Careful about lying like that. You wouldn't want a lawsuit from an actual company. Moreover, a Google search seems to indicate he's a fake person. This deleted Reddit post finds that his name is used to write identical articles by different authors on different sites, and actually part of a nutty conspiracy far beyond this video's scope. So let's just call it another red flag. The contact page of the site feigns more legitimacy than the rest, even having an office in my home city. I'll have to pay a visit. I used to work nearby. On the About Us page, they also try to be more legitimate than the other sites, though there are still some grammatical errors. But let's get into it with 2 red flags. Great for this video, horrible for an actual article. Let's start with the title. DeLon Sparrow, aka LowTierGod, is unprofessional for a title, but moreover, it's straight out of Dale's writing on his backstage account, so that increases the Daleism count. DeLon Sparrow, Instagram hyperlink, more commonly known on YouTube as LowTierGod, YouTube hyperlink, has a passion for engaging audiences with his gaming content. Although he started off as a shy individual, he soon realized that YouTube was home to an accepting community of people who celebrate those who let their true personalities shine. That's a Daleism. His popularity steadily began to grow as he posted different videos of him playing games, reacting to viral trends, and simply just being himself. That's a hardcore Daleism. Now he has over 100,000 subscribers and continues to explore new avenues, such as fashion. Remember, this paragraph is supposed to be coming from the writer, not from Dale, so the Daleisms aren't excusable yet. The author also doesn't explain how, where, or when the interview was conducted. I have to call that a red flag because those are basics to introducing a written interview. Hi DeLon, thank you for taking the time to answer some questions. Can you start by introducing yourself? Hello. First, my name is DeLon Sparrow, but everyone knows me online as LowTierGod. I am a YouTuber, streamer, entertainer, and owner of the Covenant brand. Is brand part of the Covenant now? Why is it capitalized? Also, why isn't YouTuber capitalized? I'm from Los Angeles, California, and currently reside in the high desert area of Southern California. Why is the high desert area capitalized like this? You're supposed to proofread what they say after typing it, jeez. I'd like to say in life I feel I finally found my purpose and direction. This has been a tedious path so far, but, there should be a comma before but, I promise I wouldn't trade it for anything. It has allowed me to open up and really capture myself as an individual over the years. Did you always have a passion for entertaining? Yes, ever since I can remember I've always had a passion for entertainment. As a child I was very quiet, afraid to even speak at times in public. At home it was a different story. I was comfortable and didn't feel like I had to impress anyone. Ultimately I could be myself. Over the years it took me a lot of time to master the craft of letting go and capturing my true passion. I had to tell myself the only way I could really conquer the true version of myself is to let go of fear. What made you decide to start your career on YouTube? Honestly, in about 2011, I started to watch a ridiculous amount of YouTube. On YouTube is where I would discover people just being themselves. See? I told you guys. He can't say being themselves, he always has to say just being themselves. It's a hardcore Daleism. Not incrementing the counter because his idiosyncrasies are fine when we're admitting they come from him as a speaker, as well as showing people a character at the same time. I felt like it was a way I could express myself to the world even though I hadn't fully figured myself out yet as a person. So, I ultimately just used my idle time and took a risk. Literally one of the best decisions I have ever made, as opposed to being figuratively one of the best decisions, I guess. On YouTube you are known by the name LowTierGod. How did you get this name? Okay, well, funny story, it all started from literally, he loves that word, a video game called Street Fighter. In fighting games there are 3 different tiers, 3 should be spelled out, and this comma should be a colon. Low tier, mid tier, and top tier. What's up with the inconsistent hyphenation? I originally coined the name LowTierGod, which should be capitalized, because I was always attracted to low tier characters. Eventually, with me being big into the origin of man, it would take on a bigger meaning to me, oh boy. There is a verse in the Bible, capitalized Bible, you heathen, that says, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." Alright, you're lying, and it's painful to see you butcher chapter 1 verse 26 of Genesis, but again, a falsehood is okay if it's unabashedly coming from Dale and not the journalist. So, to me, I think technically all humans are low-tier gods. That's twice that they forgot to put the punctuation inside the quotation. And you know what else is funny about this paragraph overall? It doesn't explain what low-tier god means to someone who doesn't know jack about fighting games. What kind of content do you create on YouTube? I originally started off with gaming content based around my battles and rage with fighting games. But I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be stuck in just one category. So with me finding a voice outside of gaming, I began to speak on many different topics in the social realm of things. So in all aspects that could be, literally, any category. As I began to experiment with a different class of content, I noticed my fan base began to finally grow into a different demographic. Why do you think reaction videos and gaming videos are some of the most popular content on the internet? Little I. What do you think draws people to this? Personally, I feel they've began to be some of the most popular type of content because of the timeline that we currently live in. It's just a way more opinionated realm now, so everyone can deliver an opinion that could either reach hundreds, thousands, or millions. Spell out hundreds, come on. I think really what draws people in is a new face, a new voice. This comma should be a colon. I also feel like some people may find a new confidence within themselves by just watching certain individuals do exactly what they might have always been afraid to do. Break out of their shell. This comma should be a colon. Do you have a favorite game that you have played on your channel? A favorite game. Well, I'm known for Street Fighter the most, are you literally? Now that I have an audience who cares, I feel I can personally enjoy any game that I want for my audience. I've always wanted to break out and show people the other types of games that I enjoy. At first it was hard for me to get my audience to see me play other genres, but now I feel they enjoy me playing other games even more now. Nice redundancy. This ultimately is what I have always wanted as an entertainer that happens to game. What inspired you to create your clothing line, The Covenant? There's our once an article lie about The Covenant being a clothing line. Having a niche for fashion first and foremost. At first the brand started off as just gaming jerseys for people who wanted to feel important at live events with a custom named jersey. Custom name should be hyphenated. Then I wanted to take risks with the brand and just do other things. Just. I wanted to create limited pieces that would represent what I've built, but are stylish at the same time and don't necessarily have anything to do with gaming. This allowed me to appeal to a broader audience. Finally, do you have anything exciting coming up that your fans should know about? Everyone who's followed me for years knows exactly what I want to ultimately achieve, Videla said his acting career. At first I made the mistake of telling those people my dreams, my accolades, my plans. So he's saying straight up that it hurts too much to share it anymore? Doing that I was, and I am consistently, being scorned for not achieving those accolades by naysayers. Wow, that's actually hilarious. He's taking a shot at Trevor and Slayer, who recently roasted him hardcore for saying, in 2017, that the only way he'd still be streaming beyond 2019 is if he utterly failed at attaining an acting career. But the glory of that is I have so many people who really just want to see me win on a different level. So like I tell everyone who asks this question, I just say you'll see it when it happens. That's crazy. He's admitting now that he can't be upfront about his dreams. This is actually the only interesting information from all 5 articles. He's completely backed off his dream of acting and is now leaving it open-ended so he can define success after the fact. Kind of reminds me of his phobia about saying the names of those who have heard him. The interviewer thanks DeLon for his time, and I guess Dale doesn't respond. That's pretty funny. Alright, my fellow monkeys. We've somehow sat through 5 literary masterpieces that are more deserving of Pulitzer Prizes than the 1619 Project. Yeah, I know I made that joke before, but I misspoke last time. Anyway, let's tally them all up. Across 5 articles, we have 41 instances of minor grammatical errors. 3 instances of what were they smoking level grammatical errors. 19 instances of poor writing. 5 objective falsehoods. It actually should have been 6. I forgot one in Article 4, but I'm too lazy to rectify it. 14 instances of Dale's linguistic oddities creeping up from these supposed journalists. And most alarmingly, 24 instances of red flags that indicate absolute monkey business is about. So 106 alarm bells sounded across only 5 articles. Do I really need to give you my verdict, or can I let the numbers speak for themselves? Clearly, Mr. Wilson authored these 5 pieces of journalistic trash himself and paid these websites untold sums of money to redress them and ascribe them to fake people. You know what's funny? I harken back to Miss Isabella Janke here. She similarly tried to drown negative results for her name by flooding the internet with fake crap. But at least she did so silently and with various lengths of creativity. Mr. Wilson, on the other hand, the only person I know of to make her look smart by comparison, paid for 5 identical pieces of garbage and couldn't help but immediately showcase them on his LinkTree. Hubris, the downfall of all heroes. Hell, even if it were only 1 article instead of 5 at the exact same time, there would have been a good bit of plausibility. 1 is a data point while 5 is a trend. But no, this gentleman just had to flaunt that sparkling room temperature IQ of his and eagerly overplay that ashy hand. I've been watching this man on and off for a decade now. I've seen his highest anger and I've even helped him in his lowest despair. I've seen him be banned for Twitch bots in real time. I've seen him suck toes on camera and offer to drink urine on camera. I've seen him spam the docs of kids who beat him in games while calling himself unflappable. But even with all that, I can honestly say without any reservation that this is the most pitiful thing Mr. Wilson has done in his so-called YouTube career. And I can't wait to see how he tops it in the future. What other gems are on his LinkTree? We got a secondary YouTube here? Interesting. How about that Twitter? Oh my.